Yes, the day has finally come where we have Notion charts, and I am super thrilled about it. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through how Notion charts works, how I've set them up in this example of the CRM template that I'm launching in conjunction with the Notion charts launch, and I'm going to show you some real applied use cases that I learned as I put this template together. So with all of that said, let's dive into this exciting new feature. Depending on when you're watching this, it might not be so new, but I'm going to walk you through how Notion charts works, how you can create them, and how I think through them as a professional Notion consultant with a six-figure Notion agency. So with that said, let's dive in. All right, let's jump right in here. So throughout this video, I'm going to be jumping back and forth between my more outline page here, and I'm going to show you this actual CRM template that I am launching. If you're watching this video, it's probably live on the Notion template gallery, and it will be linked in the description. This is a very advanced CRM that I have built to showcase how charts works, and Notion gave us beta testers the opportunity to use charts early, so I've gotten access to them and I've gotten to play around with them and think about how to visualize data now in Notion, and I could not be more excited about it. It's not perfect, and I'm going to share some of the things that I hope that Notion will do in case by some, act of God that Notion ever sees this, maybe they will take this advice to heart. I don't think they will, but I'm going to put it out there anyway, just so you know what I'm looking for when Notion continues to update this. So that's enough blathering on. Here, you'll see that we have a bunch of different charts and chart types that we can use. There's actually 3. But before I get ahead of myself, let's come over here and talk about what you're going to learn from this video. So since this is a slightly longer form video, it's not as snackable maybe as some of the other Notion creators, but I like to go in depth and I don't want to gatekeep anything from you guys. I want to show you exactly what I've learned. So if that takes a couple extra minutes, then it's going to take some extra time. So in this video, I want to teach you how Notion charts works, how to build charts well by showing you some example use cases, and this is from a lot of trial and error with this function that I have learned, and then how to think through formulas, because chances are you're not going to get very far with charts unless you understand some basic things about formulas. The formulas that I employ here are a little bit more advanced, but with some help and some tips and tricks, you can get up to speed with formulas as well. And I will also link some great resources, one from Thomas Frank and one from Notion VIP that I use and reference for formulas a lot. And then I'm just going to share some pro tips scattered throughout the video that I've learned so far. So with that said, let's move on to the Notion charts overview. Basically, I'm going to try to break this down as simply as possible for you guys, and I want to show you how I've built these things. And the good news is that Notion charts is pretty simple. I honestly struggled with it a lot less than I did in the past learning something like Google Charts or whatever they call their graph feature. I find this more intuitive than that. I also find it more intuitive than like Excel, and I'm sure there's other software out there that are better at doing charts because they're probably made for that. But in this case, I think Notion gets us pretty far and gets us a lot of features that we've wanted for a long time in this release. So I'm excited about it. Quick note here though, just in case you don't know this. The way that Notion is releasing this feature, you won't have access to charts unless you are on, I believe, the Plus tier. So you will have to pay about, I don't know, it's like $12 a month or something for Notion. But I believe that Notion has sweetened the pot a lot in this last year to make that worth it. And the reason being, it gets you access to, I believe, automations. It gets you access to features like this. And I think they're going to keep sweetening the pot to get people to sign up for Plus. And personally, I use Notion for so many things. It's definitely worth it. Anyway, I want to show you kind of the different options here. So we have 3 different options in Notion charts. One is a bar chart, which is what you're seeing here. One is a line chart, which is basically just a bar chart, but with one line that is one color. I haven't used any of those, but we'll build one here together just so you can see the difference. And then a donut, what they call a donut chart, which is essentially just a pie chart with a bite taken out of the middle. You saw that over here. So they're calling it a donut chart, but it's basically a pie chart. And in the Notion charts menu, it's going to give you these options. So let's stop talking and see what it actually says. So let me move my camera. Okay, so we have our Notion charts menu here. And let me actually see if I can move this up a little bit. So we have these options. You'll see that we have 2 bar chart options. We have a vertical and a horizontal bar chart. We have a line chart. We have a donut chart. So the bar charts are going to give you this option, obviously, where you can configure the x-axis and the y-axis. And then it's going to give us the option to omit 0 values. And it's also going to give us the option to sort, which means that it's going to give you the option to stack things in the correct order that you want them to be in. So in this case, in my CRM reporting database, I have a bunch of pages that are like the months out of the year. So June, July, August, etc. And those pages all serve to, represent a time period. So as you can see here, June, July. And then here we are visualizing total revenue by month. So I have 2 databases in my CRM. I have a reporting database, and I'll show you here. I have my admin page. Two chief driving databases, the CRM and the reporting database, and they're interconnected via a relation. So the CRM is to capture leads and lead data of individuals who are coming into a sales funnel, a hypothetical sales funnel. I went with a bunch of superhero names as the test data in here, just to keep it fun. And what we would do then is relate each of these individual pages to whatever the reporting period is. So I have a couple that have multiple, and that's just so that I have dummy data for those months, and I didn't want to create a bunch more pages. But you'll see that like this page is related to the full year page, the 2024 year, as well as July. So that means that this lead came in July of 2024. So we're going to get its data for all of that time period, like all of the different pages that are going to apply to the 2024 reporting page or the July page are going to aggregate because they're related. And that allows us to perform formulas and calculations based on those 2 time periods. So I'm sorry if that was a lot. It's not that important for right now. I just want you to understand how charts work and how I'm pulling in this data. So I'm showing the time period across the x-axis and the total revenue across the y-axis. And what I can do is it's sorting currently. I can make it an advanced sort because I have a field in my CRM reporting dashboard or reporting database that puts things in order. So it is automatically going to assign things in order based on the title of the page. So it's looking for the first 3 letters of the month, and it's determining what order that month falls in the year. So you'll see this first page was December, and it's showing us 12, and so on and so forth. So I've automated that so that I don't have to worry about setting that, and that allows me to do this, where we find that order property, and we order them in ascending order. And nothing happened because they're in ascending order already. But if I do descending, it's going to put July first. So you'll see that the order is a really nice sort feature. That's one of the sorts that we can do. You can sort in a lot of different ways, just like you can with any other database. So that's pretty nice. You can play around with that depending on your unique use case. You can also omit 0 values, which is what I'm doing right now. But if I turn that off, you'll see the whole year. So that's pretty neat. And then with the y-axis, I'm just choosing to display the average deal value, but you're seeing here that it gives you the option to perform basic calculations on that value. So I'm just displaying the values as they are, but you could display the sum of the values, the average, the min-max, or median, much like the calculations that you can do on any database at the bottom here. It's kind of similar, so those might be familiar to you if you've ever done that. Pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. And then we get into styling. So unfortunately, this is one area where, like I said, I have feedback for Notion. I would love to see more styling options here. And that's actually something that's been on my wish list for a long time, is to be able to set hex codes for colors in Notion. They've kind of bound us to this small selection of colors. And for those of us who build for clients, I like to brand everything for my clients, but if their brand colors don't easily fall into kind of one of the main colors that Notion provides, it can be difficult to do that. And the same thing we have here. it doesn't really give us a lot of flexibility. Like we can't select individual colors for individual data points. I do think that that is going to be a limitation, especially when we have more. You can't see it in this instance, but there have been times where obviously there's only so many colors here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have more than 5 data points, as there are here, there are 12 months, you're going to have repeat colors, which is kind of a data visualization no-no. It's not great because you don't want 2 data points that are colored as the same thing. So that is my one thing, my one gripe with them on this in terms of styling. And then we also have different height options here. So we can make them large if you have more screen real estate, that's nice. Or if you just have really kind of granular data that you want to see a lot more of it, you can go extra large, which is huge. Or we can make it smaller if you don't have a lot of space to work with and you don't want it to be overwhelming. You got that. You can change the grid line. So right now you'll see the grid lines are horizontal, but if I wanted to, I could make them vertical. Just kind of a preference thing. Or I could get rid of them and give it a nice clean minimalist look. I actually kind of like that. And then we can turn off data labels. I don't know. I think it just turns them off there. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so you can turn those off. And the nice thing is if you hover over, it does tell you what it is. So if you turned off the labels, let's try that. Let's turn off the labels, and then when you hover over it, it tells you. So if you like a minimal, clean, kind of Easlo style look, you can do that here, which is really nice. And then we have the axis names. So I personally like to have them on both. It just helps me understand what I'm looking at a glance, and if you have a team, it's probably going to help them as well. So I end up turning on both of them usually. And then we can visualize this in any way we want to, right? So we can make it, I don't love this, but you could do this. I don't know what the use case is necessarily. I'm not a data visualization expert. Don't know why you would want a horizontal bar graph over a vertical one, but I'm sure there are some smart people in the comments who could explain it to me. Then we have like a line chart, which I don't love, but obviously I don't really have enough data in here to represent this. I think there's one thing I could see this being good for, which would be something like tracking your habit fulfillment over time. I'm sure we're going to see a huge influx of habit trackers. The plight of habit trackers in Notion Gallery will never cease because now we're going to be able to visualize those habit trackers. And I'm not poo-pooing them because my first template was a habit tracker as well, and it had stats. So it's actually primed perfectly for this, but I'm not gonna put you guys through that. We don't need any more habit trackers in the market. But that's what I could see the line graph being good for, is just visualizing the fluctuation of data over time. And again, it would give you that very Easlo minimal look. I won't be surprised if Easlo releases some very, very minimal white charts with no labels and it just shows you what it does. I would not be surprised. And then for the line chart, it kind of gives you the exact same selections here, same labels and everything. So these 3 are all the same. They give you kind of all the same data points, except you'll just see the sort changes to the y-axis because we've flipped the chart. So that is one change here, but they're all the same in terms of the selections. Now in the donut chart is where it gets a little bit different. And this isn't actually the best example. So I'm going to pop over here to revenue by source because this is a really good example. I love this chart. If I had a huge sales team, I would absolutely love this chart. Because what we're doing here is we're sorting by the source of the lead and where they came from, and then we're showing the closed value, so how much that deal closed for, and breaking it down by source. A beautifully very important visualization of something that I'm sure sales teams really care about. So here you'll see the options changed. So we have like our source is the name of the property. So I could change it to lead owner and they're all marked as me. So that's not going to give you anything. I could do company, and this is all the companies that I put in for my dummy data. And it's decided to change it to sales cycle length. I'm not sure why. That seems like a glitch because I didn't change that one. Let's change it to closed values again. So now we can see the total closed value based on the companies we serve, which is interesting. For some people, that might be kind of one and the same. You know, clients and companies might be one and the same, but I just want to show you, so what you're showing is breaking down by piece. So it's essentially like the we're showing each of these is the company, and then each slice is showing what percentage or what number of that company contributes to the overall pie, right? So we have the company is currently being displayed here, and then we have the closed value is what's making up each one of those slices. So now if I come and click in here, I can click over the 90K Gamma Research Lab, and they're making up 26.8% of our total closed value so far for this year. So the donut chart is really useful for getting a quick visual on things like this. It's not as useful for kind of visualizing data over time, and that's where you're going to want to use the bar charts. So that was a lot of explanation for an overview, but I wanted you to see how these charts work and how the menu works. Like I said, it doesn't really change very much. I don't exactly understand how the sorting changes things in here. Maybe let's try, I don't know, company. I don't really understand how you would use sorts other than to just kind of like shift the way that the pie chart looks in the donut chart example. But yeah, we can make it colorful, or we can make it all red, which, like, this is nice. I do like this a little bit better than the bar chart, and I've seen examples of this in like data visualization. But again, because there's so few colors here and because we have multiple different companies, it just looks very confusing to me. It looks sleek and sexy in the way that it like lines up with all of my branding and everything, but the more data points you have here, the less useful it is, because this one's the same color as this one, and these two are the same color, and so it's just like not that useful. And the colorful one still looks good in my opinion. And then we have different style options slightly, like we can make it smaller, we can make it larger. We can show the value in the center or not, so you can kind of get a sleeker look there. You can get rid of the legend if you want to, and you can change some of the data labels. So that is that. And by the way, I don't know if I covered this, but basically the way you make a chart is it just becomes a database view. So now it's just an option to create a new chart, and just like any linked view in Notion, that's how you do it. So now let's move on to the more advanced stuff. So let's talk about building with charts in mind. This is something that took me some noodling to figure out. And this is something I figured out through the process of creating that CRM template. So remember, I said I have two main templates that are driving, or two main databases that are driving this template, a CRM database and a reporting database. And it took me a while to realize that, oh no, I'm definitely going to need a reporting database. And the reason for that is that you need to be able to relate stuff from the CRM to the reporting database and group them the same way that I was telling you about, by month, or, this applies to more than just a CRM, but in this case, we're grouping our data by month. So let me sort these. Okay. So we're grouping our data by month because if we relate all of these pages, like all of the leads that come in for the whole year, in my case, if I were using this template, I would have a make automation set up so that anytime a lead gets added to this database automatically, it's going to relate it to the 2024 page automatically. And then I would probably have some sort of AI step there to figure out what month, or the current, actually I have it in here currently. I have two of these formulas. I have one that's showing the current month and one that's showing the current year, and it's actually calculating it based off the name of the page. So I don't ever have to worry about selecting which one is the current month or the current year, and that prevented me from having to switch dates around or whatever else. So that's just a little side note there. But so the reporting database allows me to create all of these formulas that group the data together in a way that having it in the CRM database alone would not let me do. And this is what allows me to create charts, to create really cool charts for my CRM. Because I'm able to aggregate that data in a way that I couldn't if I was just leaving it in the CRM. But what I mean by building with charts in mind is understanding that some charts are going to live in the reporting database and some charts are going to live in the CRM database. So this chart that we were just looking at, I've lost it now. There it is. The revenue by source. This chart actually comes from the CRM database directly. So this is not coming in from the reporting database. And that's what I mean, is you need to learn which charts are going to be represented in which databases. And depending on what you're building, it might be that charts are coming from all over the place. And that's why you need to learn to use linked views to represent those charts or create those charts, because you then can have multiple views right next to each other like this, and it's virtually the same. Like, it doesn't really matter to you or whoever's looking at your dashboards or your reporting where that data is coming from. I have both represented here, both of them are existing here in one kind of database view with multiple view tabs here at the top. I'm able to flip through, and it doesn't really matter if it's coming from the CRM database or the reporting database. The point is that the chart is there and it's easy for me to click through. So that is something that does take some architecting and some thought behind understanding which database is going to make the best chart option for you. And then same with formulas. Sometimes you're going to need to put formulas in one database or the other. I ended up putting the majority of my formulas in my reporting database. I think there was like maybe 1 or 2 formulas that ended up in the CRM database. And that's something that takes some nuance behind understanding Notion formulas and how they work and their limitations. But that is one thing that you should also think about when you're kind of thinking about your database structure, if supporting charts and using charts is important to you. And then filtering out data and hiding certain data points actually didn't give me too many issues if you understand how Notion databases work. It's pretty simple, but there were some nuances and things that I had to do in order to filter out certain data. Like, for example, I think I have a filter here. Yeah. Where the time period, I just used a very dumb filter. I never really recommend using dumb filters except as a last resort. But if you remember, I had my 2024 reporting page is what it's called. And I don't want to showcase the overall year reporting metrics here amongst the months. And in some cases you might want to see the year on the left kind of comparing to everything else, because it'll give you like your net average for the whole year. So that's kind of a personal preference depending on the chart that you're looking at. But in this case, I didn't have a good way to filter that out. I suppose I could filter it out by like the current year checkbox, but this does the same thing, where I just said, okay, the time period, the name of the time period does not contain the word reporting, because that's what my like year thing was called. I could also just do 20, because it's always going to have a 20 in front of it until we've surpassed 100 years beyond this point. And that won't matter if it's 2024, 2025, as long as it has that 20 or 2024 or 2025 in the title, it's going to filter out that year page. So that's where you do have to get a little bit strategic. And then same with the sorts thing, like I showed you with the order. Having an order field is something I actually end up using a lot in bigger builds or more complex builds to make sure that pages are always going to stack in the correct order. And that allows you to sort. So you'll see these are sorting by order. That's really important, and it does take some forethought. And then the final thing I just wanted to say here is building with charts in mind means you're going to want to think ahead about what kinds of dashboards you need in your use case. So do you need a bunch of data all in one place, like this reporting dashboard? Or is it more like you just need like a little pie chart scattered around here or there? Think ahead about that and architect that in your mind of like, what data do you even need to visualize? Like, what makes sense? I consulted a lot with ChatGPT and my own experience to figure out what kind of data to build into this CRM. And then let's talk about some real applied use cases, and I'll kind of walk you through some of the formulas of my CRM and show you how that ended up where it ended up. So one thing I do want to note here is that you can share charts as images, which like this is amazing, because back in my 9-to-5 job, I was a project manager and a scrum master, and we did a lot of reporting, and we were using Asana and other tools that just were not conducive to being able to share that data very easily. But we did have to send out like sometimes daily emails to update the higher ups on what was going on. And it was a pain in the butt to share those charts with them. And this would have saved my life in many ways. So the thing about this is if you wanted to drop this, say, into like a Google slide or like a Whimsical board or something, it's super easy. They thought ahead and made this really easy. This is not even a feature that like I would have thought to ask for. You can save a chart as, and you can save it as, you can even add this nice little background, which is like so cool. I'm sad again that they didn't give us more colors, but it's pretty cool that you can add a little background, and they happen to have my brand colors, so I lucked out. But you can copy it as a PNG to your clipboard. You can download the PNG or download the SVG file, which is amazing because now it will make it so much easier for people who use Notion for their businesses and for their careers and their jobs to be able to share data and share graphs and charts like this, like that. Drop them in an email, drop them in your whatever you use to kind of track your OKRs or do your reporting meetings. This makes that so easy, which is just amazing. I love that. And then just again that, creating dashboards, thinking ahead about how you want to create those dashboards. And then, we already talked about the separate reporting database. So let me walk you through the mindset of this is obviously a super advanced build, but I think there's a lot that you can learn from watching how I kind of structured this data. So let me pop back over to my admin page and kind of show you those scary formulas again, because there's a lot of them. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this tab because we're going to flip back and forth a fair bit. So there's two formulas for every formula. What I mean by that is there's a formula that's calculating the actual number, and that's just giving you the raw number. So average deal value, and it's looking at all of the pages that are related to whatever page that we're on. So let's show you here. So you'll see like these pages have different numbers based on who's associated with them, and then we have our total for the whole year. And then we have like deals lost. It's calculating it. It looks scary, but it's really not that crazy. It's looking into the CRM database and it's pulling the statuses and filtering them based on whether the status is lost. And same with the deals won, and then pipeline velocity. Again, it looks kind of scary, but it's really not. Sales cycle length is one of those formulas that I actually calculated in the CRM database because it's finding the date between. It's finding the date between when the lead entered the pipeline, their initial contact date, and when they were marked as closed, if we closed their deal. So that's giving us the overall sales cycle length in days. And from there, we're calculating out the closed value to create what is called a sales velocity, a pipeline velocity number. And then this is calculating out the pipeline value, so the total value. And I don't want to bore you with all of these. They're kind of, it's tedious and it took me a long time to build these, but I just wanted to show you that like these are the raw numbers that would be used to drive your charts like these. This is your pipeline velocity that we just talked about. And it's looking into that pipeline velocity, this pipeline velocity number, and pulling it into a chart. So you need to think ahead about what kind of formulas you're going to need to write. And that's one thing I want to say here too, is I don't know how good of a time you're going to have with charts if you don't learn some basics about formulas. Even just basic like arithmetic formulas that aren't that hard to create. But that's one thing that I will say is that it's definitely not for the faint of heart, and it is going to require you to learn how to use formulas in order to visualize data in a more advanced way. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and then also to show you that like not all data needs to go into a chart. So what I mean by that is if we hop back over here to our reporting like dashboard, and I apologize, this is the third video I'm recording today, so my voice is starting to go out on me. But if we go down here, you'll see like this data, being able to see all of this at a glance is really valuable without a chart. And you could already do this. This part of the CRM could already exist without Notion charts. This is about formulas. So formulas are driving this process. And the reason I bring this up is because I think there's going to be a lot of people who get really chart happy. And that's fine because it's a good way to learn. But it's also important to understand that sometimes you need to find other ways to visualize data. And in this case, being able to quickly at a glance see your numbers in just like a simple gallery card view, because honestly, those donut charts are not that great when they're tiny. I used them a few times here. Like, I thought I had one. Maybe it's in here still. Yeah, like this. It's nice to see it here, but this is only going to give you a very small amount of data. So it's not great for seeing those multiple metrics in one place. And that's why these formulas are really nice. These are display formulas. So the numbers I was showing you before, for every one of those that I made, the regular deals won, win rate, etc., like number formulas, I had to create a display formula that actually labels it, because Notion doesn't actually put the property, doesn't give us a chance. Another gripe that I have with Notion, doesn't give us the chance to label properties on gallery or card-based views like this. This is a gallery view. Same goes for board views though. It doesn't really give us the chance to display the property name. So we actually have to write a formula to display the property name with the value like this. So just note there on formulas as well. But another cool thing here too is like, this is something you can totally see in a board view, but it just looks way more fun in a chart. I actually have a board view that does show this. If we come back over here, I have our lead pipeline, and it's basically the exact same thing. I mean, this view gives you more detail and it gives you the ability to like move things around. But if you just want to see like the raw numbers of like how many cards are in a given part of your pipeline, this is the same thing. It's showing you the same thing, but in chart form, which I think is pretty cool, because sometimes you don't want to just like drop a board view on your reporting dashboard. You want to be a little more professional, and you want to have like an actual chart showing you where things are at in your pipeline. And I think that's really cool as well. And this is something that can totally be accomplished without any formulas. So that is a super high level overview, a quick shot of how charts work. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below, or if there's a more specific video or use case that you want me to make around Notion charts, I will be looking at all the comments and trying my best to reply to each one. And if it's a good idea, I might just make that video. So this is a new channel. Please like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me, and I'm excited to keep making awesome videos like this for you, as Notion seems to have a lot of releases scheduled for us this year. So I'm sure there will be no shortage of new feature videos like this to make. But that said, I want to thank you so much for watching this 30-minute video. I hope it was valuable for you, and I will see you in the next one.